and a powerhouse in the world of mindset, abundance activation, and evidence-based coaching. Larisa specializes in helping conscious entrepreneurs, business leaders, and change makers break through mental barriers, step into the authentic confidence, and radically expand their lives and their impact. Welcome to the episode of Happiness by Habit, dear Larisa.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited, very excited. You are connecting with us. You're based out of beautiful Canada, right?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, today we will dive into how to move from dreaming to doing, rewire limiting beliefs, and create the joyful, abundant life you deserve. Larisa, you are the expert on this. Let's get started at the beginning. What inspired you to create Abundance Academy and focus your work around helping people radically expand their lives?
I think a lot of times whenever we fall into something, I did not have a desire to get into the coaching space. I did not have this as part of my life plan, but it found me. I had a very windy road in terms of my career path that ranged from financial services to real estate investment. I had a pole dance home party company at one point.
Oh my goodness.
It just went all across the map. And then I ran a Pilates studio. I've been teaching dance. And then over time, after my maternity leave, I started studying with Bob Proctor, who was one of the world's leading authorities in prosperity, thinking, and growth. And he's passed away since then. However, I was driving my husband crazy because I like being busy. I like being active. And I was on maternity leave with an extra couple months of bed rest. Sitting around was not my idea of a good time. I know I had this beautiful baby, but my husband said, you need guidance. So I started studying with Bob Proctor, and an opportunity to become a consultant came up with him. And I remember he talked about all these things that I'd been studying for 20 plus years at the time. And instead of it just being this theoretical concept, all of a sudden, I was finally able to fully embrace things in my heart, in my soul, in my own world in ways that I had never before. I'd always tried to, I'd forced things, I'd accomplished a lot of great things, but there was never a sense of naturalness. And studying with him, all of a sudden there came a sense of naturalness. And I started to radically expand my life in different ways. And I literally fell into this world. And when an opportunity to work with his company came up, I had every reason not to. My husband's like, he stood up and said, Larisa, if you keep doing what you're currently doing, are you going to get to where you need to be? And I couldn't say yes. I wanted to say yes because I loved my work. I loved my clients. I loved everything I was doing at the time. But I knew it was time to move on and take this different path. So it's just so rewarding when I get to do the work I now do.
Absolutely interesting, because you got experience in such a different backgrounds of expertise, no? You blend science, psychologically, and intuitive practices. Can you tell us about your approach of unlocking someone's true potential using these powerful tools?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so often one of the things that I've noticed is there are so many categories and modalities and tools and resources, or the latest fix or the latest fad out there. And deep down, it always bothered me when it was like, you have to do this way. This is the correct way to do it. You have to do this way. This is the correct way to do it. And actually, when I was working in the world of Pilates, I was a teacher. I trained instructors. And then I also ran the studio. So I did a lot of different work in that field. But what we really did in that movement world was we looked at recipes. We're like, well, this is a recipe for this condition. This is a recipe for this protocol. This is a recipe for this kind of thing, to give us guidance in terms of where to start. But what we did differently is we also looked at the person behind it and really used the recipe as a guideline, but didn't handcuff ourselves to it. And we really adapted and worked with the human. And I think that's a big part of the approach that I take in terms of the mindset work that we do, because there's no one size fits all formula. Use the modalities, use the recipes, use all the magic, yay tools. However, I think the secret sauce comes when you really start building intimacy and paying attention to people and listening, not just to what they're saying, but what they're really saying. paying attention to what they want, not just what they say they want, but what they really want. We always say there's a thing under the thing, under the thing, under the thing, under the thing. And when you go layers deep, it's magical, and it's really, really cool, because that's where the significance lies for people. And that's really where change can happen, when you get to know them and start seeing the thing under the thing.
That is so true. You can only get to that deep layer once you uncover it, and you do it through the power of listening, of communicating and connecting with them. And it's true also, I love the you mentioned about the recipes, because definitely there is an abundance of tools available for our life nowadays, but it will depend of what is the specific need of each one to decide what are the tools that are best for them. So
Well,
interesting.
any tool can work. A lot of tools can do, you can use 5 or 10 different tools to get the same result. Some will be more relevant to certain people than others. So it's less about the tool. It's good to have a variety of tools, but where the creativity, where the mastery comes in, is knowing which tool to use with which person at which time. And that creates magical experiences for them, but also for you, because you see the transformation, and there's just nothing more rewarding than see people cross the threshold.
That must be, I was just thinking about that. What a rewarding opportunity to work with clients that you can see the transformation and help them break through limiting beliefs. And speaking of tools, you have multiple certifications across NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and coaching. How do these modalities complement each other when helping someone transform their mindset?
Yeah. I think one of the big things is I use the tools in very structured ways and in very flowy ways. But at the core of what makes them work in a powerful way is that they all work at the unconscious level, regardless of which tools. When you start looking at where people are at consciously and where they're at below the surface, before they're below their level of awareness, and you help them make the shifts at the unconscious level and then bring their consciousness into it, they can experience really radical and rapid change. There was a client I worked with many years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And prior to working with me, she was in therapy for over 10 years. This is a one-on-one client. So I work both in a group setting and one-on-one, but this was a one-on-one client. And she was in therapy for 10 years. And she's like, Larisa, I keep going 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. She's like, I actually want to change. Like, what am I doing wrong? I feel like I've done everything, but every time I feel like I'm making progress, it's just not working. And so what she was doing is she was really reinforcing all of these things by talking through it. And she wanted to come to a permanent solution. But because we used unconscious tools within 2 months of working together, she's like, I'm a totally different person and my problem is gone. Within 2 years, her whole life, her entire because it sometimes takes a while for the rest of you to catch up, right? You make the internal changes and it takes a while to catch up. But within 2 years, her entire life was different. She had moved. She found a relationship of her dreams that she's still in. She shifted and adapted careers. And there was one moment where she's like, Larisa, I just earned 3 months income in a single day. Why am I still working this job? I think it's time to make a change. And so she finally had those quantum leap moments, those moments where previously things were totally not even in her awareness or in the realm of possibilities, but because she did the internal changes, they stuck. The rest of her life was able to unfold accordingly.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Because that change needs to start with one. Like once she was able to help her through going that questioning and finding really what was the issue and the challenge, and gave her or equip her with all the tools and the support. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Larisa, you talk a lot about moving from dreaming to doing.
Yes.
What habits or mindset shifts are crucial to make this leap?
So I think so often we get stuck in one arena, right? There's dreamers that are like, oh my gosh, I just want to dream. Think of the possibilities. And they get so excited and they're like, I can do anything and I am unstoppable. Great. While I love and respect and support all of that, if you don't actually do something about it, the dream will not happen and you'll just be really happy every time you close your eyes and dream. And then there's the doers, the people that work hard, the hard workers, the worker that exhaust themselves along the way. But if you don't have a dream that's juicy enough, compelling enough, all this work you're doing it's just going to make you really tired. It's kind of like running on a treadmill going nowhere. And so I think like it's pretty simple, but you got to dream and then you got to do, and then you dream and then you do. And as you do, you have new information to enhance and clarify and refine the dream. And as you dream, you start looking and expanding into your possibilities and maybe get the courage and the guts to go try something else that you're going to do. And so it's almost like this ping pong match, right? Where you have to do both. But if you don't give yourself the space and the grace to actually dream and take away the that hat of limitation, like really dream, not just be like, okay, 3 seconds or 3 minutes or 5 minutes of looking at my dream, done for the day. It's not a checklist. Like you actually have to do it in your heart. And when you do things, it's not about doing 500 things. It's about like, what does God or spirit want me to do? And what am I breathing life into that day? Like, what is the thing I really in my heart need to do that I'm being called to? And those moments of alignment are so juicy and so compelling. It's very different than just be like, check off a list.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell the difference because when you really want something, it's like a burning desire. You cannot live one more second of your life without having it or without thinking about it or without working to get it. So it can be an amazing motivator. And it is also very important, or probably as important, or maybe even more important, to develop the plan and the execution and to do the thing, right? They say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Absolutely.
Yes. Let's talk about this abundance mindset a little deeper. What is the role of this abundance mindset in achieving success, not just financially, but holistically in life?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the idea of abundance, I don't think that word is something I ever really grew up with. I don't know about you. My son, he knows. My son is 7 and he knows what abundance means. But growing up, that was not part of my vocabulary. I was totally scarcity driven, and I didn't use the word scarcity, but my actions and my mentality and my way of thinking was very conditioned in that arena. But abundance is about plentifulness. It's about the possibilities of more. And when you have that abundance mindset, you really do step into the possibilities of what could be. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I don't think you can fake abundance mindset, because where abundance shows up is in your results. And if you have abundant health, you feel good, you have energy, your blood work comes back clean, like you can move your body in different directions, like you're vibrant. Great. If you have abundant wealth, that means you have, like, wealth as in money. You actually have money in the bank. You are paying your bills. You might tip the bill. There's nothing more. We were just at a restaurant on Saturday and we came in, and this was a very unexpected restaurant. We came in, we were visiting a friend who was in town with her kids, and we met them at a gymnastics competition. But then we ended up going for dinner at 8 o'clock at night. So this is much later than we'd normally eat. And the restaurant's going to close. And we called them and made a reservation. We're like, we're on our way. We have hungry children. Can you accommodate a big table of people? And they're like, yes. And it was not just, it was like a fancy place. They had like a pianist on a grand piano. We're like, wow, this is a really fancy place. We didn't know. We found this place in a new area, and it was just a great place. No one judged us. They gave us the most impeccable service, and it was absolutely outstanding. And so when we went to pay the bill, I got the bill, and they had automatically added the tip. And I was just like, I was a little angry. I caught myself. I'm like, I'm really angry because like I wanted to tip more than whatever. I don't even know what they charged me for the tip. And I wanted to tip more because they were kind. They were just everything you would want a restaurant to be, and they were accommodating even with our last minute requests. And so I ended up leaving extra cash, but I remember it was like to be able to say thank you to people and to go above and beyond and have the ability to do that. That's abundance, not for any kind of recognition, but just because you want to wholeheartedly say thank you, and you have the ability to do that. People aren't used to tipping the bill. People aren't used to going out of their way just to be grateful in so many arenas. When you have great results in your relationships, in your career, you see that, and you do things not to compete, but to create. The power of 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 11. And that creates magical opportunities for people. And so I don't think abundance is something you can force, because it won't be real. But abundance is something you need to step into and you need to align with. And if you try to force it, the universe has a sense of humor and it will kick you in the backside and teach you a lesson, and you'll keep getting those lessons until you learn them.
That's very powerful. I agree with that, with you in the sense that maybe abundance itself, it wasn't a term many of us grow up with, but it's a thing that can be implemented and incorporated in our daily lives, because what we focus on expands, right? So a lot of people just spoke about the scarcity and how so many people think and focus on the things we do not have. But how powerful is that change when you concentrate on the bigger picture, on the good things? Everything kind of evolves from there in a positive way. Yeah. A lot of people feel stuck, overwhelmed by fear, the situation, economical situations. Perhaps they are fearing being laid off, they are fearing being get sick, different fears. What would you say is the most important, powerful, small shift they can start with today?
You may or may not like this. The listeners may or may not like this. I think you've got to just accept it. Fear will always be there whenever you're doing something you've never done before. And if you actually want to overcome the fear, you've got to suck it up, Buttercup, and just do it. And it may not feel good. It may be scary, but your worst case scenario probably will not happen. If you look at like, what's the best that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? What's likely to happen? What's likely to happen is likely to happen, or a variation of that. But the worst case scenario very rarely will ever happen, or like it's just so incomprehensible. And so there was a joke that we used to say during my NLP trainers training, and because we had to do a lot of presentations and we did not feel ready, and it was just like go, go, go. It was the Navy SEALs of speaker training. And one of the things, like, we didn't have time to get afraid, that was good. But we also joked that it's like, well, when you're afraid, you might want to throw up a little bit. So you just, suck it back, pop a mint and get back out there. And you literally just have to do what you're afraid of, or else you're never going to get over that fear. You may need to do it several times to go from the fear to being competent. You may never like it, but you can gain a sense of competence, which can start putting you at a state of ease, because you know you can do it. It's not impossible anymore.
Yeah, because the fear is kind of healthy also. It's normal to be afraid of something new.
Absolutely.
Some people even say that when you feel fear, when you are afraid of something, it's also can be a sign that you're moving forward because you're doing something you're not used to.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, like, okay, there's a difference between the fear we're talking about, like, oh, I'm afraid to make a phone call. Oh, I'm afraid to submit the application, or making a fool of myself. Like, that's the kind of fear. There is a response that happens in the brain that, like, if you're being chased by a lion, tiger, or bear, and you're afraid, it's a very healthy response to have. Like, you should be running your tail off and you should be afraid. You want to be afraid and you want
survival.
To go survive. Yes. But the brain processes other things like the phone call, the social media post, heaven forbid, whatever you're doing, the scary thing, the public speaking opportunity. It processes that the same way, but our lives are not likely to be in danger. And so when you start really looking at what kind of fear it actually is, it's fine. You're not going to be eaten alive. It just do it. Just do it.
Right. Just do it. A lot of times, as you mentioned, the fear is based on something that is not real. Most of the times is based on the worst case scenario, which is unlikely to happen. So when you think about it and focus on the objective and try to calm yourself down and focus on the future and the activity you need to do and also focus on that. It's good to have this fear, because that means you're moving forward, you're doing something new. So that is a good technique, I think, also.
Well, there's a quote. There's a quote that goes, "When you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rotten." And when you're growing, you're either growing or you're dying. You can never be doing one or the other. So even into your 70s, 80s, and 90s, you can be growing mentally, physically, developmentally. Like, there's no reason to stop. Most people just choose to. There's no actual reason to stop growing and developing yourself at any age. However, if you don't actively pursue that, you're going to like just start to get to the point of disintegration where you ultimately waste away. And you see that in society, left, right, and center, with some of the things people say, some of the things people do. I'm too old to exercise. Why bother? Movement hurts. Why would I read a book? It's just, I don't need to. I'm not in school anymore. I don't need to learn anymore. I'm just going to enjoy myself. Well, no, you need to keep stressing your muscles or they won't grow. And it's the same thing. If you don't do things that scare you, you're not growing as an individual. Like you're just going to coast and flatline, and that gets boring after a while. So it might be nice, but it's not going to be satisfying. You're never going to have those sparks of joy that light you up like a Christmas tree. And if you want to have a good life, you've got to be willing to do things that make you uncomfortable. And the more you accept it, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. So that will be super key if you want to continue growing, have a life that has purpose, that makes you happy. Definitely keep moving forward, keep learning something, keep doing something that new, experience a little bit of fear, but that is okay. Just keep moving forward would be the suggestion from Larisa. So let's talk about your why. What drives you every day to do this transformational work?
I love to teach. Since I've been very, very young, I used to force my sister. When she was getting ready to go to kindergarten, I used to force her to do phonics. I would make like little phonics sheets for her. I wanted to get her ready for school. I would use my sister as my first Ukrainian dance instruction subjects. I would choreograph for her. So I don't know if she appreciates it or liked it, but I loved teaching. Even back then, all I wanted to do when I was younger was be a Ukrainian dance teacher. That was like my life. That was like my 4-year-old princess dream. And I did that. I was an artistic director. I've taught and worked with clients and different people in various capacities. But that led me to start. I was teaching movement. I was teaching dance. But I realized over the years that I love teaching anything and everything. There's just something about the process of learning that turns me on. There's a moment when a student gets something, whether it's physical or whether it's a cognitive, a learning process, or whether it's them on their own personal growth journey. There's a moment in time where people have like these light bulb moments and they just light up like a Christmas tree. And that is so incredibly satisfying. There was a client, I have a fairly new client. She's been with us a couple of months, but we met for a quarterly planning session just at the beginning, I guess at the end of March, beginning of April. And she had a really big goal. She's like, I want to do this. She was writing a manual and creating a course, and she had to submit this application for something and have all the work done. And she put it off for a couple of years. And she ended up saying, okay, I'm going to commit to this no matter what. And she had 5 weeks before the deadline, which was beginning of May. And so we ended up going, like, we looked at estimated how long this project would take her. She time blocked all the calendar things, and she was like ready to fully commit to this and to do it. And she did. And the first week or so, she's like, didn't work out as expected, but I made progress. Second week didn't work out as expected, but I made progress. Like I think 2.5 weeks into this, she messaged our WhatsApp group. She's like, I submitted this application. She wasn't even halfway through the time we had allocated, and she had completed this thing that she'd put off for so long. But what was exciting for me, it wasn't that she just checked the box off and she got it done. Like I knew in my heart and soul how much this meant to her. Like this is like a passion project. This is part of her life's work. And like I knew how important this was to her. Like I was almost like tearing up because of my excitement, but she was able to do it so much faster, so much easier, so much more joyfully than she had ever anticipated. And to be able to be a part of that, to be able to see that and to observe that, that's what gets me going, is seeing people learn, seeing people grow and stretch themselves and realize that there is more out there for them and for others that they touch.
Wow, how satisfying. That's amazing. We love talking habits here because the name of the podcast is Happiness by Habit. What are some of your personal happy habits that keep you energized, centered, and joyful?
There's two things. So two things, movement and mindset every day, no matter what. There's a lot of other things I do, but those are like the non-negotiables. So every single day I must move my body, because if I don't move my body, I can maybe go one day without it. But after 2 days, I get creaky and very crabby. I get tired. I can't keep my eyes open. So I must move every day, even if it's for 10 minutes. So that is, I change how long, what kinds of movements I do, and what I do in that container. But the non-negotiable is I must move every day. The other thing is the mindset, and what you feed your mind, what you pour in here will get expressed out there. And so again, I listen to books, I read books, I do journaling, I meditate. I have a whole list. I actually have a whole list of tools that I use and that I draw from, and I mix them up. But one of the things I ended up doing probably about 4 years ago is I would tell my clients, I'm like, you guys need to study every day. Because if you don't study, if you don't feed your mind, you're not going to get what you want out of the work that we're doing together. So I gave them guidelines, and a couple people did them and they got results, but then the rest didn't, and they felt bad. And I didn't like the feeling, and I didn't want them to feel bad. And I felt bad that they felt bad. And so I ended up for 1 month, I said, I'm going to make a 1 month commitment to my clients. And for this month, I am going to show you a part of my morning routine, and we'll study together. I'm going to teach you to do what I do because I wanted them to be successful. And I said, we'll do it at 6:30 in the morning and go from there. So we did. And they did something amazing. They clicked join now. And many of the people that just didn't commit to themselves on their own time committed to clicking join now. And that was about 4 years ago, because at the end of the month, they're like, Larisa, you can never stop this. And so we've kept doing these morning calls, but even with that, I still do my own mindset routine. But those morning calls, I think probably the last couple months, I've realized really how powerful those calls are for me. And every time I go on vacation, there's times where I might pre-record a couple of the calls and not see people live for a few days or for a couple weeks. And my energy goes to a different place. Like I love the calls. I thrive with them because we're learning and we're growing and we're feeding our minds together. And it's become such a ritual for me as well as my clients that it's almost like it's good happy juice every single day, and it's good for you.
Yes, and you have your accountability partners with your clients that you talk to. I love that. I think that's very important, the morning rituals. I love reading as well, and one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah.
So I wake up early because of my kids, so I need to get them ready for school, but I wake up a little earlier than that so I can have me time. And one of my favorite parts is a little meditation also. That's important. The movement, I can totally relate to that because I love it, and it not only makes me feel more energized and everything, but feeds my soul. It makes me happy, like dancing in particular. In my case, I love dancing. The Zumba classes, awesome, very good. In your personal journey, what has been one of your biggest mindset shifts that completely changed your life?
I think it was that my greatest successes come easily to me. And I remember this is a few years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but I remember I was sitting in my office before it was renovated, before we reorganized my office, because I remember the direction I was facing. And I remember sitting at my desk, coming to this realization that all of the most successful moments I had and times where I felt successful, I got certain results, I didn't work very hard. And I could attract and earn big results, big money, big opportunities when I was at a state of ease. And I'd heard people talk about this, but I was always conditioned that you have to be a hard worker. You have to work hard to be successful. And this whole, my grandparents were immigrants. And so they worked hard. They valued hard work. The last thing I wanted to be was lazy. Like that's a swear word in my, like that's an earmuff word. I can't use that word because my whole life, that's the last thing I ever wanted to do. And so the conditioning was work hard, but the results actually came from having more fun and doing things easier and more joyfully and more naturally. And it was never hard when I was aligned in those moments. And so for me, that's definitely been a challenge. It's still something I'm actively working on. It's something I recognize and I embrace today. However, it's something I still have to deliberately and actively work on. Like, yes, you do have to do the work. However, when you're in spirit and inspired, all of a sudden, you can do a lot less work and have more fun and get better results.
Instead of saying working hard, maybe working smart or working happy. I don't know, that might be some of the words that come to mind, because definitely when you do something you love doing, it's going to show and everybody's going to notice and it's going to feel it and the energy, and you're able to naturally accomplish greater things.
Yeah. Well, you synergize, right? Success comes easily. You synergize and it goes poof. It's almost like an explosion, a good explosion.
Multiplies. Yes, absolutely. And you can feel it when you are with somebody like that you can either somebody you can help or somebody who thinks in a way like shares your feelings or your mindset and you can create amazing things. So it's definitely multiplies. This is really powerful. Larisa, as a successful entrepreneur, coach, mom, and wife, how do you create balance between your professional and your personal life?
I know what I must do, and I know what would be a nice to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really stick to my core commitments and I let the main thing be the main thing. And sometimes I might add a little flavor or a little dressing of something fun or special or different, but if it really doesn't align with my values, with my goals, or with my priorities, I say no and I don't include it. I used to feel really guilty for everything and I used to say yes to everything, but I would say I cut and I say no a lot more to things that just aren't relevant now. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. If they're relevant, I consider them. If they're not, I don't force myself to do those things. And so we're very busy with my young son's schedule and we want to enjoy ourselves, so we want to make sure to create the time for the things that we desire.
Yeah, the power of saying no is like setting some boundaries is such a key element of happiness. Absolutely. Okay, let's go for a quick fun round of quick questions. Let's do a rapid fire round, Larisa. I'm gonna ask you something and I would love for you to tell me the first things that come to your mind, okay?
Okay, do you want an explanation or just the answer?
Well, just if you wanna give an explanation, you can do it
Okay, here we
or
go.
not, whatever you feel like it. Okay, let's talk about one word that describes your coaching philosophy.
Integrated.
Integrator. I like that. Nice. Your favorite book that inspired your journey.
Not my favorite 20 or 30 or 50 books.
Give us a couple if you want.
Power of Awareness, Psycho-Cybernetics. Those are a couple.
I haven't read the second one. That's an interesting topic. Coffee, tea, or a morning green juice?
Water, then green juice, and herbal tea in the afternoon.
Oh, I like that. Awesome. A personal mantra you live by.
Everything you believe is true.
So whether you think you can do or you can't, you're probably right. Do something, right? Like that Tom Ford's quote. I love that one. That's so true. If your journey were a movie title, what could it be?
Ready, fire, aim.
I like that. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Larisa, for this incredible, inspired, and actionable conversation. Your approach to blending evidence-based practices with intuitive coaching is a game changer, and I know so many of our listeners are going to feel empowered about this after hearing your wisdom today. For everybody tuning in, please make sure to connect with Larisa. What is the best way to connect with you, Larisa?
We are on all social media platforms. We'll make sure to send that to you. So LinkedIn is probably the best one if you're on LinkedIn, but we do reply everywhere else. And I also have a book called Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away. So if anyone's interested in downloading that, I'll give it as a gift to your viewers, and then you can stay connected with us by email. It's stopprocrastinatingbook.com. So stopprocrastinatingbook.com and you'll discover the secrets to more time, money, and freedom.
Oh, that's awesome. Definitely need to download that book. We will make sure to put the website on the show notes, and you can find her inspiring insights on LinkedIn and her other social media platforms. Remember, abundance isn't something we chase. It's something we cultivate, one belief, one habit, and one bold step at a time. I am Silvana Pimentel, and this is Happiness by Habit. Until next time, keep choosing joy. Thank you. Bye-bye.